and welcome to Are We There Yet? Market Scale's online video podcast series that focuses on the most exciting companies, organizations, and trends in transportation today. My name is Grant Harrell, and as your host, we'll speak with the voices of today's most exciting organizations and companies, truly learning what's at the cutting edge of technologies and the most exciting and relevant industry trends in transportation today. And speaking of today, I am very excited to speak with Teamsters, and we'll be meeting with and interviewing Chris Moore, who is an international representative for Teamsters, focusing upon their aviation division, a longtime mechanic within the aviation industry who's also served Teamsters for many years now. Chris, thank you so much for your time today. Hello, and welcome to Are We There Yet?
Thanks, Grant. Really glad to be here.
Well, thank you. Well, really been looking forward to our interview today, and I don't think could be a more relevant guest and organization on the podcast series today with Teamsters. I believe that truly your work today is more important than ever before. For audience members that maybe aren't quite as familiar with Teamsters as I am, would like to quickly introduce Teamsters and would love for you to provide audience members with a little bit more of an introduction to the organization. As I understand, Teamsters is in fact America's largest and most diverse union, representing today over 1.2 million members. Truly, from A to Z, understand that you work with individuals within everything from aviation to zookeepers. In fact, I've recently learned that 1 out of every 10 union members is in fact a Teamster. And with today's talent shortage affecting so many different industries, especially aviation, I don't believe that your work could be any more relevant than ever. And so for audience members that maybe aren't quite as familiar with Teamsters, would you mind telling us a little bit more about the organization?
Sure, I'd love to. And again, I'm really happy to be here. So everything you said is absolutely correct. And I think the atmosphere that we are in today, we're seeing more and more workers that are realizing that union representation is a really, really vital part of helping them to provide a better future for their families, right? So whether we're improving safety and health in the workplace, whether we're negotiating contracts or helping them to provide better wages, health benefits, retirement programs, all of these things, we're there to help the middle class continue to grow and thrive.
That's great. Well, that's so great to hear, and truly never more relevant than today. We're seeing a talent shortage in so many different industries, and know that through the great work of Teamsters, helping certainly to overcome that in every industry, really, but especially within aviation. I know it's been hit hard with the recent talent shortage. I understand that speaking to aviation and the division within Teamsters, that it really goes back all the way to 1959. And as I understand it, then Teamsters General President Jimmy Hoffa worked very diligently to organize airline workers truly across the country. And just a couple of years later, in 1961, the Teamsters Airline Division was formally established, as I understand, through a meeting in Chicago. And since then, the Teamsters really has provided first-class service to airline workers across the country. I understand over 30,000 aviation members today within the division. I understand that you provide, services for members, including everything from medical services, benefit, certainly contract negotiations, legal representation, training, development, organizing, legislative advocacy. The list really goes on. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of these services and maybe even specifically some within aviation?
Sure. So that's kind of where I live. That's my wheelhouse, is the aviation part of this in the airline division, where I've been a part of since 2011. So I'll talk a little bit about the Rail Labor Act, which is a little bit different. It governs railroads and airlines. It's a little bit of a different labor law. So when you start talking about the airlines and how they're organized, you organize an airline on a national basis. So if airline X has pilots or mechanics in 10 different cities, that's how you organize them. And then when you negotiate the contract, you have to deal with all of the different cities that you're working with within that airline. And where I was going with that is when we talk about organizing and some of the different departments we have and things that we offer, we have a dedicated organizing department that does a phenomenal job with us when we're organizing a large group of folks. Imagine trying to organize 12,000 people in 20 different locations from Guam to Puerto Rico. It takes a lot of boots on the ground and a lot of support. It's really quite the undertaking. So that's one part of the RLA. And then again, as I said, when we negotiate contracts, we're doing it from a national perspective. So we're providing the economist and the legal representation, as well as the negotiators from the international with experience, as well as local union representation and rank and file members. So there's a lot of support that goes on there. So, and I'll just continue on down. So, some of the training that we offer, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. So, we talk about the NTSB getting involved anytime there is a major accident. So we train our members to participate in those sorts of investigations. We provide expertise. So we provide training to our folks that would be dispatched with the NTSB to a crash site. God forbid that should happen, but they're there, they're trained, they're there to give their expertise. We teach them how to do an investigation and how to work with the NTSB. We give them bloodborne pathogen training so that they can be protected while they're on that sort of site. We also teach collective bargaining. We teach labor history. We offer safety training through our safety and health department. So many different things. We offer a service for our mechanics that is what we call a license protection program. And essentially what it is, and we never want to see this happen, but people make mistakes. And if you're a mechanic and you're getting investigated by the FAA, we're going to provide legal counsel for you to help you understand the steps that you're going through during the investigation. If you want me to move on to some of the other things that we're doing, I can do that as well.
Sure. I'd love to. And I'm so impressed. Yeah. With the list of services and support that you provide individuals, and especially with that kind of reach, truly international, with that number of members, it's incredible. So absolutely, by all means, would love to learn a little bit more, at least maybe touching on some of those areas of support. I think it's very interesting.
Right. So you mentioned earlier, we were talking about legislation. So we are part of a coalition. And look, so we work with a lot of different folks. We recently worked with a group called ATEC, which is the Aviation Technical Education Council. And that is an eclectic group of airlines, schools that teach aircraft maintenance, labor unions. And we all pull together to try and work on how we can help streamline the process for aviation maintenance schools to make it easier for the schools to change curriculum as it's needed, still staying within the FAA guidelines, mind you, but to get it done, and that'll help kids get through school faster and help us replenish the pipeline, which is one of the things we'll talk about today. So we just recently, I think it was May 24th, the announcement was made. The FAA announced that the legislation had passed. They would be implementing it, and they did it. And I had to point this out on Charles Taylor Day, which is National AMT Day. Mm-hmm. Charles Taylor was the we call him the first aircraft mechanic. He was absolutely the Wright brothers mechanic. He's the guy that built the engine for the Wright Flyer.
Wow.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. So last year we signed an exclusive partnership with Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology, and they will provide for any Teamster member or their immediate family a scholarship for any of them that want to go to aircraft mechanics school. And they also offer an advanced degree, a bachelor's, and that bachelor's is in science and technology management. So we're doing a lot of stuff, and I could ramble on for hours, but I won't. That's the stuff that's right up front.
Absolutely. I appreciate you touching on that. That's incredible. And I think I appreciate you mentioning the newly established training partnership. And I think that's so relevant today. And I think that training, that educational component is so relevant. And I think that what we're seeing certainly within aviation and many other industries is as these individuals retire, there's a new generation, coming into these fields. And so I think that education and training component is certainly more relevant than ever. So glad to hear that and how that even continues on to improve things like employee retention within organizations is so relevant as well. So very much appreciate you touching on that. We're talking a lot, of course, about aviation, and that's your specialty within the aviation division within Teamsters. And I know that especially within aviation, this talent shortage has affected the industry very much, more so than many other industries. We're talking today within the Are We There Yet video podcast series, and I always like to ask guests a question kind of centralized around this theme. And so we've seen this talent shortage affect the aviation industry. Full talent shortage recovery. Are we there yet? Are we getting close?
So you saw my my answer at the beginning. No, we're not even close. And I preface that by saying, and I always use there's a Boeing report that comes out every year, and they do a worldwide prediction of how many people will be needed over the next 20 years, and that number hasn't shrunk at all in about 5 years. I think mechanic-wise in North America, and this is only commercial aviation, 132,000 new mechanics between now and 2041. That's an amazing number of folks, and these are good jobs. But part of the issue is about 30% of aviation maintenance workers, and you can see, look at me with the gray and everything. I'm one of them. At or near retirement age, and it was kind of accelerated a little bit by COVID. I mean, we knew this was coming, and we were grappling with how to get more younger people into the industry before COVID hit. COVID, the way it all worked out, I think it was amazing because of the programs, the government programs that were in place. It allowed a lot of airlines to keep their people close so that they didn't all disappear, which would have been devastating. But even after that, there were a number of people that took early retirements, folks that were close to the end. They just said, you know what, I'm okay. I'm going to go now. And then everything has bounced back in a really rapid fashion. And you can just see that by turning on the news on a daily basis. So it's we have a heavy lift in front of us for pilots, mechanics, and cabin crews. And I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing on the maintenance side to try and do that when we get there.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you highlighting that. I think it's important to recognize, that the talent shortage is still here. No end in sight, certainly in the short term. And so I think even highlights the importance of organizations such as yours that are working to overcome that within the industry. So we understand now that we aren't there yet. No end is in sight in the immediate future here. Can you talk a little bit more about conditions within aviation? How did we get to this point, and what needs to happen to fully recover? And I know, as you touched on a little bit, the aging, of the professionals within the industry, and as they move towards retirement and start beginning to retire, we're starting to see some of these issues. But would love to just, better understand kind of the conditions that led up to this and created the shortage that we're seeing today.
So I won't go all the way back to deregulation, but we can look at the 80s, and we can look at the 90s, and we can look at 9/11. So our industry was really devastated, very cyclical, a lot of bankruptcies, a lot of people lost pension, a lot of people basically lost faith in it as a career. You could be doing really great for 5 or 10 years, and then you could have the rug ripped out from underneath you. So a lot of people kind of started shying away from getting into the industry. And I will say, and I'll say this on behalf of the industry, they have come a long way. When I say that, I mean the airline. I'm talking commercial. They have done a phenomenal job of stabilizing the industry and making it a good place to work. The pandemic was, to call it a one-off would be an understatement, but it really is one of those things that no matter what, you can't plan for. You can plan for a lot of things. Nobody ever saw that coming. But the fact that we recovered as quickly as we did, that shows that the stability is still there. And that's part of, I mean, if you're going to talk to a high school kid about being an aircraft mechanic or a pilot, they want to know that if they're going to invest the time and the money in that profession, that profession is going to be there, and they're not going to be, in their mid 40s with a couple of kids looking around going, where am I going to work tomorrow? So that's kind of what led up to it, right? So there was just a lot of instability in the industry. A lot of folks were just shying away from it, and I kind of got halfway to where I was going. Now things have stabilized, wages are more stable, and we're doing a lot of the right things as far as airlines and employee relations. I think it's a great place to be right now.
Good. Good. Well, I can understand, how really, going back decades, the history and how that's kind of led up to it, and something like COVID, really, combining to create the conditions. So understand, appreciate that overview. Again, I think you've commented on this already a little bit, but would love to learn a little bit more. Would love to hear about some of the things, maybe specifically, that the Teamsters and your work within the aviation are doing to really overcome this. I think that you've shared already some of the great training programs, educational programs, further creating stability within the industry as far as a profession. Can you maybe comment on this a little bit more and let us know about some of the great things that you're doing to overcome this talent shortage within aviation and move past the conditions that we're seeing today?
Sure. So there are a couple of things that we're doing that I'm really excited about. So I want to say a couple of years prior to this, we realized that we had to get out there and find a way to reach students. And this is purely, we don't hire people. We're not looking to do that, but we are very, very passionate about our craft. So we started going to STEM events. We do outreach to students. I've spoken at Vaughn College. One of my colleagues, Bob, he goes to Emory-Riddle a couple of times a year to speak to their classes. We sponsor the aerospace, or one of the sponsors of the aerospace maintenance skills competition. You're aware of that. You were at the MRO. That's if you got over to the competition side, it's quite the event, right? So I think this year we had
incredible.
It is. And if you were ever wondering about the kind of passion that mechanics bring to this profession, it's really there to be seen. You've got kids from school, you've got folks from airlines, you have military. We had 80 teams from all over the world that showed up this year. So those are the types of industry things that we like to participate in. Earlier in the year, it actually was maybe towards the end of last year, we received one of the FAA workforce development grants. They only issued 10 of them, so we are really excited about that program. It's been a passion of mine for a long time to try and put together an education program that would help show folks just what it would take to be an aircraft mechanic, right? So a lot of our history, mechanics come out of the military, or they go to A&P school when they're in high school, as I did, or they just kind of get the bug and they go to school, right? So this program was developed. We applied for a grant through the Department of Defense. And they said, can you put together a program that will take some of our folks that have absolutely no idea how aviation works, that are going to come out of the military, and they're really going to be in mediocre jobs. We would love to see them get into aviation. And that is where the Aviation Basics program was born. We can take someone for 8 weeks and we can show them what the basic aviation math and physics looks like. Here's how you use hand tools. Here's some of the things you have to expect if you're going to be in the industry. So we're in the process of finishing up the curriculum on that right now. And this is really great because you can plug a high school person into this. We're really looking at veterans and underserved communities. And I think it's going to be fantastic when it's finished. And then one of the other things we're doing, we've partnered, and we've had a number of our airlines ask us, but we've got one that's almost in the hopper now. And it's going to be a full-blown apprenticeship program. So that some of our members within the airline who are not mechanics can get into the program, and they can advance through the program, and then they can earn their license and really begin to earn a good living. And that will translate out through the entire airline and then onto the street once we've offered it to everybody else. So those are just some of the things that we're doing to try and what we call fill the pipeline, if you will.
Absolutely. Very good. I love to hear it. And I think those are very direct solutions, in overcoming the talent shortage. So I love to hear that. Love to hear about the partnerships, collaboration with some of the government programs, as you mentioned as well, and things like the competition that we were both a part of at the MRO Americas conference here in Dallas recently. Would love, if you don't mind, just because that was such a fun event, and it was pretty incredible, for me to get to observe and just to see the passion, 80 teams from around the world, as you mentioned, that were demonstrating their skill sets on site at the conference with equipment right there to see in person. So that was a pretty amazing event. Can you tell us a little bit more about that event for maybe individuals that weren't so fortunate to get to see it in action at the conference?
I think the big takeaway this year, so if you came here 3 or 4 years ago, I think 3 years ago, right before COVID, we had our first all-female team. This year, I think there were 3 or 5, and it's fantastic because one of the underserved markets I talk about is more women in aviation. It's a big deal. And we're starting to see more and more women come into the workplace. Yeah. Now we have, so if you looked at all of the different airlines that were there that brought their own specific events, we even had some rocket scientists there. I always say that the event where you've got to fuel the rocket, and it's really about how teams work together. And really, aviation maintenance is all about that. It's how you work as a team to accomplish something safely and finish the task. So if anybody that's within earshot of this, if you check out AMC or Aviation or Aerospace Maintenance Skills Competition on the website, you'll see where the next event is. It's annual. It runs in concurrence with the MRO Americas conference that happens every year. If you want to be an observer, you can actually go online and get a floor pass just to be an observer at that event. And if you're at all interested in turning a wrench on an airplane, I'd say it would be well worth your while to show up.
Definitely. It was a lot of fun. It was incredible. That was the first time getting to see in person, in action myself. And it was just an amazing event, competition. And one of my takeaways, I think, from it too, was just, what an exciting culture that you have within aviation mechanics. And I mean, those individuals were having a lot of fun. They were just, there's certainly a competitive spirit to all of it, but just seeing them work together in their natural environment, working on aircraft, was just pretty amazing to see. And so just as you said, I think for individuals out there, maybe that, aspire to have a career in the industry, it sure looks like they're having a lot of fun and really enjoy what they're doing.
Yeah. There's nothing cooler, like in my estimation, is when you show up at work at night and you get assigned an airplane and you go out there and it's completely broken and, you've spent your whole night and the airplane is signed off and safe and ready to go first thing in the morning so you can put passengers on it. That is a huge feeling of accomplishment. It kind of feeds on itself. So.
Absolutely. And I think all of us that are frequent travelers, really should have an appreciation for the work that they do to keep us all safe, because there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that we're probably not so aware of that go into just making for the safe experience that we all enjoy. So, definitely give a lot of credit to those individuals that are keeping us all safe. Would love to get some of your insights, on at a larger, more macro level here too. We talk a lot about the talent shortage, specifically within aviation, and would love to have maybe just some of your insights and thoughts into kind of how we arrived at the talent shortage. Overall, this is something that certainly not here just in the United States. It's affected the world and most every industry. Any insight that you might have on just how we can maybe avoid this type of situation in the future in different industries.
Sure. And I'll speak specifically to the trades. So my personal story is very simple. I was in 10th grade algebra class. The folks from Pittsburgh Institute of Aeronautics came in and talked to us for a half hour, said, by the way, in 11th and 12th grade, if you're really interested, you can go to high school half the day and come to our school and learn aircraft mechanics half a day. And I was like sold that afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
those kinds of programs are not as prevalent as they used to be. And the same with any kind of trade program at school. I think vocational technical training is really important. I started in my head thinking about this. I said, at some point, I think we lost our perspective on how important having trade skills, tradesmen and women, in the industry, right? So the shortage it's not just relegated to aviation or auto mechanics or pipe fitters or the folks that run your electrical lines and electricians. This is a real thing where folks forgot that you don't have to go to school. And I'm not bashing a 4-year degree ever. I think that's a wonderful thing as well. But we've had a generation that thought that was the only way to go, where you could have gone into a carpenter's apprenticeship program or an electrician's. You could have gotten into again, we're building aviation apprenticeship programs again now. All of those really important things that people can make a really good living. I mean, if you look at what a topped out airline mechanic makes, that's some pretty serious money. And the things that are in real demand, like welding and all the other things that I just mentioned. I'm old. I went to school in high school in the 70s. So you learned you could go to aviation school. You could be in carpentry. You could be in auto mechanics. You could be in jobs in today's world where you're knocking down a decent amount of money. And I just don't see those things out there. They're coming back. I think a lot of the high schools that we talk to at the STEM programs, they are all, I don't want to say scrambling because it sounds like they're disorganized, but they are all focusing on putting these types of programs back in their schools, because college isn't for everybody. I was really grappling with, should I go to a 4-year school or I can go get an aviation mechanics license. I really think that's a cool job. And that's where I ended up my entire life.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think you're answering the question, I think, through a very relevant personal example and story. So I very much appreciate you sharing that. And I can see, really a lot of value in that. And I'm glad to hear that through some of these programs, that focus upon, trades is coming back and is very much needed within society today. So that's all, great to hear. And I think even early on, sharing those options with high school students, just as you shared, that are maybe kind of, on the fence in terms of going to school or pursuing trades. So to know that those types of careers are out there and offer, that level of living is very important. And I hope that through efforts such as your organization and others, we can, really bring that back, worldwide, certainly here in the United States, and, really continue to highlight the importance of that and how much it's needed, and what a great lifestyle that can support as well. So certainly glad to hear that. I can only imagine that as a result of today's interview, there's going to be a lot of individuals, organizations, companies that are going to be very excited to learn more about your work, not only within the aviation industry, but within the many industries that Teamsters supports. Today's interview will be featured as well at marketscale.com. That's really the premier business-to-business video media site today. So I know a lot of organizations and companies are going to express interest as well. Can you tell audience members out there how they can learn more about Teamsters and explore opportunities to benefit from your support?
Absolutely. So look, if you want to learn more about the Teamsters, the website is www.teamster.org. Right. So it's pretty simple. And then if you really want to talk to somebody, if you are a group that's interested in maybe having us speak, there is a contact portion of that website. You can fill that out and have someone call you back. Generally, it's me or somebody else.
Yes.
Depending on the division that you're interested in. Because remember, this isn't just about the aviation part of it. If you go to the drop-down menu that says divisions on it, it will drop you down just about every different division and conference that we have, and allow you to explore all of those different pieces. Like I said, you can fill out the contact paperwork, or you can call the switchboard at 202-624-6800. And just tell them, what you're interested in, and they'll get you where you need to go.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that. And truly, as you said, certainly not limited to just aviation, very much A to Z as Teamsters shared. So everything from aviation to zookeepers, everything in between. So would certainly encourage audience members to jump on the website, call to the system as Chris shared with us here today to learn more about Teamsters and how you as an individual, an organization, and a group that might be interested in support from Teamsters can learn more. So Chris, thank you so much for your time today. I sincerely really enjoyed our conversation. I don't think could have had a relevant conversation, more relevant than that which we had today. And I know that audience members are going to very much benefit from your answers, your insights within today's interview. So thank you so much for your time and participation. Really appreciate it.
Grant, thanks for the invite, man. This was really cool. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll wish you and Teamsters the best of luck. Thank you.